Good evening, Pats fans. It's your boys DTN and DadBod35 here on this Patriots talk show, and today we got some topics to cover. But before we get into those, make sure to subscribe. It's completely free, helps supports this channel, and if you are interested in wanting to chat with us, I have the pin message in the top of the comments of the chat section. So like if you want to call in, there's the pinned link in the top of the chat. So if you want to chat with us, talk about like some of the thoughts or questions, you are free to do so. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Joe Milton trade, and then we're going to discuss some takeaways on some of the top of some of our coaches' press conferences, and then we're going to conclude with the Bill Parcells induction announced by Robert Kraft in the owners' meeting in Tuesday at Florida. So how are we doing today?
We are doing very well, my man. How are you?
Doing good. And I'm just like, so when I heard about this Joe Milton trade yesterday, that caught me off guard.
And it said what?
And it said that the Patriots did trade Joe Milton and a 7th rounder,
correct,
to the Cowboys for a 5th rounder. Now, I know that I watched Kobe's live stream last night, and I can tell that he was not a huge fan of the trade for multiple reasons. One, because because the Patriots did not get the value of the pick that they wanted, and instead they got a 5th rounder. And for some reason, he mentioned that the Patriots traded away to a team based off of personal feelings instead of business. So yeah, I know for a fact that Ron Wolf, I don't think I did research on this, but I heard that Ron Wolf in every single season as a general manager for the Packers, Hall of Famer, in every draft, he would always draft a quarterback to see if they can develop it under whoever. It's so complicated. But yeah.
I got to do some research myself on that myself, man. But before we get back to you, I have two ways of thinking about the Joe Milton trade. And they are these. One, and I was talking about this with my coworker this morning, it is very unpatriot-like to trade a player to a team for personal reasons. Like Milton said, oh, my family are Cowboys fans. You know, we grew up watching the Dallas Cowboys, yada, yada, yada. And Vrabel and Wolf were like, okay, we'll ship him to Dallas for, we'll ship him and a 7th rounder to Dallas for a 5th rounder. And in exchange, I do agree with you completely, you and Colby completely, on the trade value. Because I think it would have been better to get maybe a 4th round pick, because you're not going to find your next. Yeah, Tom Brady was a 6th rounder, but we all know how unusual that is. You're not going to get, Cooper Kupp was a 5th rounder, but you're not going to get this year, especially, you're not going to get your next, you're not going to get your next Lawrence Taylor. You're not going to get your next Peyton Manning, or you're not going to get
like the next Brock Purdy, who was Mr.
You're not Calvin Megatron from the Lions. Calvin, help me out here, DTN.
Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson, thank you. You're not going to get any of those guys as a 5th rounder in this particular draft. So now let me hear your side before I tell you part 2.
Well, I know that. So basically, I agree with some of your points, but also to add that Vrabel did mention in this press conference that he will ship off players who are not committed to be with the Patriots. And Milton was one of the guys. But I think that they did it way too soon. They did it way too soon. Like, I would have waited him for like more to sit him out for like to keep him in the active roster and get more tape out of him for teams, for quarterback needy teams. Like, I can list off some of the needy teams. Like, you got like the Steelers, who desperately need a quarterback. You got the Titans, who desperately need a quarterback. You're shipping off to the Cowboys. By the time you reach in Dallas, you won't even be able to be the quarterback one for the Cowboys. Like, because unless something happens to Dak Prescott and then he gets that opportunity.
Yeah, man, they don't need a quarterback. And before I forget this point, again, I was talking about this with my coworker, and I kind of agree with it. And I am not a Milton guy.
Neither am I.
But I would have been happy seeing how he looked in training camp before shipping him off. But and then I was watching the Insiders tonight, and they're like, the Dallas Cowboys are not helping themselves because they have Dak Prescott. They have a known QB1. And now they have this, super alpha personality in the locker room with him, who all indications are he doesn't want to be a QB2. He wants to be a QB1. So wait for an offer from one of these QB needy teams like the Saints, like the Giants. Well, not so much the Giants now, more like the Saints or the Steelers, before shipping him off. Now,
Go ahead.
What I do like about this trade is this. Drake May is now your undisputable QB1, and you have now officially cleared yourself of another Mac Jones Bailey Zappi situation. I was in a chat with our guy Austin last night, Loai Sage, and we were talking about this, and I said, what if May throws, I kid you not, one pick, because we know how this fan base has been since Brady left, one pick, like they did with Mac in that Bears game a few years ago, and you'll hear chants of we want Joe, we want Joe. What is that going to do to May's development?
It's
Read my face.
It's not going to mean nothing. It's mean nothing. Like,
correct.
This fan base, we're so impatient. We're so spoiled. Like, we want like whenever Bailey Zappi goes off, like back in 2022, they're like, bring in Zappi over Mac Jones.
Right.
It's, like, this is why now you have Josh Dobbs in the building, because
correct.
You do not want to repeat of what happened in 2022. Because like during Mac Jones' first season, he had like Brian Hoyer as his quarterback too.
He did have Brian Hoyer.
Yes. So basically, Bill Belichick did not bring in they still have Brian Hoyer, but then he went on the IR after that injury against the Packers. But in 2023, they kept Jones and Zappi and ship off Brian Hoyer. It's like I thought Mac Jones was still on his rookie deal, and basically he got worse in 2022. So basically, what Bill Belichick did was opposite of what we're trying to do right now, which is trying to make sure that Drake May does not have a sophomore slump. And I think that Joshua Dobbs, he's a upgrade of Jacoby Brissett. And
interesting.
So basically, with Joshua Dobbs, he is not like your starter, but he can at least win you games, like what he did in Minnesota when he was with Kevin O'Connell. He did some of that in Arizona. And he was also with Vrabel in Tennessee for some time. No, he was the reason why he was considered as the Pastronaut.
He is the what?
The Pastronaut.
Pastronaut?
Well, I think that's what people call him. astronaut, passer.
Jeez. Okay, old poor Manteau. I hear you. But I think the talk that, again, I'm not a Milton guy. I think the talk that Dobbs is better than Milton, which I have heard, is a little wild. But he is definitely a solid QB too. And Andy is the past with Vrabel, and he's used to being a backup. Milton and Milton and May came in the same class. I mean, if you're Vrabel and Wolf, you want to make this look as smooth for your third overall pick quarterback as you can. So, and that's what they did. They I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too. They didn't exactly do it in a way that was to my liking. Like, it doesn't sound like it was exactly to yours either. In fact, it wasn't. They should have, they should have seen how he looked through training camp, and then it's, oh, gee, another quarterback needy team in the summer might have looked at Milton and said, oh, geez, he looks really good. Let's see what we can offer the Pats for him. But now it's done.
Yeah. One more thing before I get to read a couple of your comments. What I also know is that Milton, he only played like a couple preseason games and at least one game against the Bills. And that game against the Bills, he was going up against second stringers and third stringers. So basically, you didn't get teams didn't get enough tape out of Milton to be like, oh, this is gonna be our quarterback for the future. And yeah, I think that they jumped ahead way too soon, and I think that their personal feelings got ahead of them, instead of like, we are a business, we're going to trade you no matter what. We're not trading you to the Cowboys. Trading them to the Cowboys, the Cowboys are more of a country club than much of an organization.
The the Joneses are completely a country club pair. They're just like, rich old white guys who are so, how do I say this, glazed over that, how to run a football team means nothing to them. They have good draft picks. They have good draft picks, and then they can't do anything. And they just, no, that wasn't the wrong team. But no, they can't do anything in free agency.
Yeah, they're so meaty. We're getting a little off topic, but yeah, Jerry Jones, he's past his time. Basically, he still thinks he's in the 90s. He still thinks that he could do what he, like, after the Jimmy Johnson firing, he can do whatever the heck he wants. And basically, correct. Cowboys they're either regular season merchants and never do well in the playoffs, or they're always mediocre in regular season.
They have a bee on their bonnet that they can still bring back America's team. America's team is never coming back to Dallas, man.
No way.
It just isn't. Not being run by them.
Until Jerry Jones stepped down. You could, correct. Like, we'll talk about the owners meetings in a couple minutes, but yeah, going back to, so basically about when it comes to like ownership, we'll get to that soon, but to be an owner, you got to make sure that you're doing right for your team. And I know that we'll discuss like what Robert Kraft discussed in his owner meeting. But when you think of all the owners, you can think of like Jerry Jones, who he is incompetent. Another owner who I think he was the only owner in the NFL Players Association that got an F on its report card, and that is Woody Johnson, the owner for the Jets. And you all know that Woody Johnson, his story, it's so funny. Then again, it's so, no wonder why he didn't take Jets fans seriously, because of their owner. He is worse than Jerry Jones. Like,
the Jets are just, I mean, again, let's not go off on a tangent here, though. The Jets are going to jet. You can be sure about that. And it's because of Woody Johnson. He's the reason they no longer have Robert Saleh.
Okay.
Yeah, and they yeah, go ahead. They fell
No,
off a
you go ahead.
cliff. They fell off a cliff after Saleh left. But anyway, we're digressing too much.
Yeah, we are not talking Jackie. We're talking about the Milton trade, and I think that to give a recap of the Milton trade before we read the comments and move on to the next topic. Overall, should we trade away Milton? Yes, but should
Yes.
we done it later, like before the 53-man roster? 100%.
100%.
They did it way too early. I think they did it way too early. Yeah. Then again, you did get a round pick above what Milton was worth, which was a 6th rounder at least. So at least you did bump up a grade, but that's not getting enough. That's not getting more draft capital. And Wolf did mention last offseason that they wanted to get more draft capital. You basically just traded away a 7th round, one of your 7th round picks for a higher pick. That's not getting like more draft picks than what you anticipated. Like I thought in my chart that we would get another 7th round and a 5th round, but I was mistaken. So it was a pick swap, which I thought it was way too soon. Like I would have gotten like a 2026. I would have gotten a 2026 draft pick instead of like a 2025 5th round pick.
So yeah, I mean, right? How do I even sum this up quite shortly? I don't want to say right move because it really, I mean, trading away Milton, yes. I mean, right move, but wrong timing,
100%,
and wrong way to, and wrong way to go about doing it. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. And Colby makes another good point, like in his live stream, that you since you did it based off of personal feelings, that's not how you become a good. Those are the outcomes of how you're not a good team, unless there's a miracle of how this 5th pick, whatever you're going to get, is going to be like the best pick you're gonna get. Like
that is what a bad team does.
Exactly.
I mean, you could argue that again, let's not get further down this rabbit hole, man. We could talk for the whole stream about the Milton trade, but we got other topics to get to. So
yeah, so let's
DTN, let's get to our comments.
Let's get to our comments. And reminder, everybody, if you want to chat with us, you can go in the pinned comment up in the chat. And here's the StreamYard link is available. This stream is powered by StreamYard. That says so in the right top corner. But Paul made a good point about the comparison with like the Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi comparison. Like he mentions a good point. Like May is going to make mistakes. Every quarterback does. Even Brady got benched. I remember the fans were calling for Jimmy G. I don't know when was that, but I know that Tom Brady wanted to stay, and then they shipped away Jimmy G to the 49ers for some capital. I don't know when it was that.
I do remember, like, every backup QB, Jimmy G had a major fan club. Right? When he played those he started, it was only like a game and a half of when Brady was suspended because of the injury. He really went off against the Cardinals that year.
Oh, I remember that game. Until he suffered that
game too.
Until he suffered that injury against the Dolphins, and Jacoby Brissett to take over. And in fact, we did trade it away Jacoby Brissett to the Colts instead of a draft pick. We got Philip Dorsett. I remember that.
I remember that too.
Paul makes another good point about like he also mentioned about talking about the Milton trade. He said Milton could be good. We don't know. Playing against Buffalo's backups doesn't tells us
nothing. Exactly. And that's what you want to say to these people who say Milton's better than May. We don't know that either. He played one game against Buffalo's 2s and 3s, and was it good? Heck yeah.
Yeah.
But these two guys are rookies. We don't they obviously had neither of them had the right tools put in front of him last season. And Milton, like we were saying, his opportunity you'd have a better opportunity somewhere that's not in Dallas, somewhere that is a really that's really QB needy, like New Orleans, and see who he really is, be allowed to show his true colors, because May is here now, and it would be nice to see how both guys look. Unfortunately, we're not going to get that this season.
Exactly. Also, that he did play in the first two games. The game against the Panthers, he did pop off, but then against the Eagles, he fell down to earth, and then Commanders, he looked like in center. It's like you don't. He's so
crumpled into a pretzel. He what?
He was basically he's so inconsistent because
he's very inconsistent.
Because we all know he had like a great throw of throwing arm at the combine, but the problem is, can he do it consistently in the NFL, which I don't think he can.
Again, I don't think he can either, but with time will tell. Time will tell. I remember watching that Panthers game and the Milton stands coming out of the woodwork. I went to the Eagles preseason game, and that's what 100% sold me on Drake May. That full drive he was in was something else. And Milton did not look good.
Also, I bet you Milton's not going to enjoy being in Dallas when you know that if Dak Prescott starts full time. But we need to find out in training camp. They might have like a quarterback competition, and probably Joe Milton does better than Dak Prescott. We don't know, because Dak Prescott did come off of an injury. So
he is coming off of an injury, and we're not Cowboy fans, but I mean, a segment on Dak Prescott could last at least 15 minutes. Anyway,
yeah,
we got other stuff we need to get to.
Yeah, we gotta move on. Let's talk about some of the offensive coaches' press conferences. So basically, yesterday we did see Josh McDaniels having his press conference, and I will hold on. Let me share my screen and pull up the notes. This is from Evan Lazar's article, and so basically what we're going to be discussing are like some of the takeaways in Josh McDaniels' press conference, along with some of the offensive assistants, such as the likes of Doug Marrone. We got Ashton Grant, who is the quarterback coach. And one of the biggest takeaways, like obviously he's excited to be back here again for his third stint, excited to work under Mike Vrabel. But what struck me the most is like when he was asked about Drake, how he can work with Drake May, he said, and I quote, "I'm smitten by the young man in terms of his personality. We've had an opportunity to spend some time that has nothing to do with football with one another, which has been great. Next week and beyond will be really fun to get to know him from a football perspective. I couldn't be more excited about the young man that we have." The interesting thing about with Drake May, that Josh McDaniels, he never had this kind of a quarterback, with the exception of Cam Newton, but he had it like a Cam Newton who was like way out of his prime. This is like something different for Josh McDaniels. And I don't know if Drake May will operate under the Josh McDaniels system that has been implemented for like so many years within the Patriots dynasties, or is Drake May going to still thrive through that West Coast offense, or whatever Josh McDaniels comes up with? Since last offseason, he did, however, he did go to various colleges and tried to learn like some of the offensive systems from various colleges and apply it to what he's going to be doing next season. So I'm curious about it.
I'm very curious about it, to see if he can put what he learned at various colleges last year to work on the field, and if he can get a different product other than what we saw under Brady and Mac. And there's a key word for me, because I watched the little clip this morning. There's a key word in that article for me, and it's smitten.
Oh, I love
you do not hear that word used very many quarterbacks. And what it means is we have an offensive coordinator who, yes, some people may still have their complaints about him, but he likes Drake May so much that, like, it, I don't even know how to put this into words, but he seems to really be into Drake May and into making him the, superstar NFL quarterback a lot of the Pats fan base believe he can be. I still believe the kid's ceiling is Josh Allen. Will he reach that? We don't know. But that that sentence really
Was
it's a breath of fresh air, because you haven't seen I mean, he was excited to work with Mac Jones, but he did not seem as excited about Mac as he is about May. I mean, do you watch that clip, DTN? Like, he looked like he was talking about, he could have been talking about his son in that clip. He glows about Drake May.
I did not. But I gotta take a look at it at some point. But
I'm gonna have to put it up in the Discord chat because you gotta watch it, man.
Oh, I gotta take a look at it. But another part in Josh McDaniels Josh McDaniels press conference that was also interesting. Like, he was also asked that if I can find it, where is it? He did talk about, like, when it comes to, like, wide receivers. Unfortunately, I don't have it, but he mentioned, like, how he was asked about the wide receivers. He said that all of the wide receivers has a clean slate. Do you know what's interesting? The two words, clean slate. It seems like we hear these two words over and over again. Everybody has a clean slate, even all the coaches. But some of the things we all know is that the same outcome. It's like the same outcome. I wish that these two words clean. It seems like everybody's going to have a clean slate. That's for sure. But the problem is they put out the same performance, like, every single year. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I wish I have, like, that portion of the transcript of it if I could find it. But what are your thoughts about that?
Clean slate.
When it comes to, like, the wide receivers.
When it comes to the wide receivers, I think you and I have talked about this before. I am deeply interested in seeing how Polk and possibly Baker work under Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel. I think the reason we had, or not the reason, there were a number of reasons we had some of the poorest wide receiver play in the league last year. But
Well, I have the quote from that question. So the question was, I'm curious what your thoughts are on the wide receiver room, just who you have in that room currently, and the Stephon Diggs edition as well. And it's going to be a long one. And I quote, forgive me. I'm excited about all those guys. Everybody's got a clean slate. And to me, that's going to be an important message that I know coach is going to give on Monday. And we're going to echo that. It's best to really refrain from making assessments on people until you really have them in your room, until you get to know them, until you coach them, until you put them on the field. You're running drills, you're running things offensively, and you have an opportunity to correct things, see if they can fix it, make the corrections get better. So we have some young players that certainly have a lot of ability, and we have some guys that have some experience, some of which I have little experience with, such as KB, Mac. And I'm starting to get to know some of these other guys that are trickling in here. And I'm super excited to work with all of them. I really am. Steph is a unique individual, a unique player. He's got a really good skill set. He's been a very productive player for a long time. I'm excited about his addition. My brother had an opportunity to coach him last year in Houston. So I have a little bit of insight into what he's like day to day. I'm really excited about having him here. What's interesting is that his brother is also a coach at Houston. I never knew about that because I know for a fact that Stephon Diggs was with Houston last season, but I never knew that Josh McDaniels' brother, he was also a coach. That's what struck me. Let me find out what his name is.
I've been hearing about it, and it wasn't Mike McDaniel. There was, and I think it was.
Let me find him.
He was actually with the Texans, and his name was
it was Ben McDaniel. It's Ben McDaniels. That's his name. Yeah. So he was the wide receivers coach and a passing game coordinator since 2022 with the Texans, and he was the assistant wide receivers coach with the Texans in 2021. So at least Josh probably got some of the information from his brother about Stephon Diggs. But yeah,
Josh's brother, interesting, is with the Texans, and I've been hearing that name with the Texans. McDaniels, that's who it is.
But what's interesting is that some of the wide receivers Josh McDaniels is going to work with, some of them he's never worked with, like the wide receivers that were drafted in 2023 and the wide receivers that were drafted last season. Obviously, Polk and Baker, but he's never worked with them. He was never worked with Pop and Booty, so it's going to be interesting to see what he gets out of him because obviously he worked with KB, he worked with Mac Hollins during his one season with the Raiders, so I'm interested.
And his brother now we know has worked with Stephon Diggs, and Josh is clearly very into Stephon Diggs, so he has connections to those three guys. But the other four,
that's going to be interesting.
It's going to be very interesting. Let me just say this, Dow. Clean slate doesn't really carry much water. I mean, fudge. How do I word this?
Because I know Bill O'Brien said it in 2023, and then AVP said it last season. So,
yeah, I mean, so it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean
until until you see the product on the field.
Yeah.
Basically, what it means is we'll see how these guys work in mandatory minicamp.
And then training camp.
We'll see how they're working. They work in training. Exactly. We'll see how they work in training camp. We'll see how they work in the preseason.
And then obviously the regular season.
Exactly.
But all of these could change once the 53-man rosters come. Correct. Let's discuss another press conference, and it's actually this position coach. This position is a very important position for Drake May, and it's the O-line coach Doug Marrone on left tackle. So basically, the question was about the left tackles, and he said, and I quote, "There's a lot of traits that people put up with tackles. I never want to limit someone. I played with all different types of left tackles. Some guys have been really athletic. Some guys have been really tall and long. Some guys who have been short and quick. I think it's tough if you want to say, okay, this is exactly what you're looking for. Each team around the league has played with different players and they perform well. Obviously, Doug Marrone, he was with Cam Robinson, one of the free agents we were supposed to get. Unfortunately, he did sign with the Houston Tech. He just signed with the Houston Texans. But we all know what the outcome was going to be if we get Cam Robinson, because he has like the same stats as Vidarian Lowe, and obviously we won't get to that. No, we won't discuss about that. But what's interesting is that when he was asked about Will Campbell, he says, like, because he was asked about like the 33-inch arms, because that's been the focal point with Campbell coming through the combine and before the combine. This is what he said, and I quote, "I've always looked at it as, do you want to play that way or do you want to play longer? Do you play to the max of what you have, or do you play with under what you have? I have guys in the past that have played for me that have 33 to 35-inch arms and haven't played like that. I've had some guys that had shorter arms and play like that had longer arms. It's something that you want to make sure you evaluate and see if it affects the players in a positive or a negative way. And I think that's an interesting thing because Campbell, he obviously his arm length is shorter than like your normal tackle's length, like 33 to 34. But will it play a factor when going up against a multitude of edge rushers in the league? Like if we draft Will Campbell, and I know that you made your point, Andy, that you do not want Will Campbell in the first round, and I can understand that. But if we do get someone like a Will Campbell or a Josh Carnley, we might go up. We need to see how like they develop, but it's too early to tell. We need to find out in coming weeks, heading towards the draft. But yeah, what your thoughts about like these comments made by our offensive line coach, Doug Marrone?
Well, that was interesting. So just read what he said about arm length again.
Oh, let me read. Oh,
I know I'm beating a dead horse, but
so like so basically he says that I've had guys in the past that have played for me that have 33 to 34 inch arms and haven't played like that.
And have not, as in played like a tackle. Interesting.
Some guys that had shorter arms and played like that had longer arms.
Weird.
And it's something that you like to make sure you're.
There's a guy you probably heard, and I was reading. He writes about the Titans, and Taylor Kyles had him on earlier today. Maybe it was yesterday, but either way, I watched the show today. And he was saying that a comp for Will Campbell is Peter Skoronski. And Peter Skoronski was famous for starting, I think it was at left tackle in college. The guy who drafted him basically took one look at him and said he's a guard and put him at guard. And I forget if it was left or right. But either way, he was drafted as a tackle, but he was drafted, and the guy who took one look at him and said he's a guard and put him at guard instead.
Is that the reason why the Titans signed Dan Moore to that stupid deal and have it play at left tackle and then put Skoronski at left guard? Is that?
Yes.
I know Bill Callahan is. Wait, is it Bill Callahan, the offensive line coach, or are you talking about someone else that's like one of the beat writers for the Titans?
He's a beat writer.
Okay, it's a beat writer. So it's not Bill Callahan, even though it is
not Bill Callahan. No, I forget the guy's name. No, he's a beat writer. He's not a coach.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because I know that Peter Skoronski, I did a little research on him. He did play left tackle at
it was right.
Northwestern, and I don't remember like what his arm length was, but
I think it was similar to Campbell's. He might have measured in like at the combine like Campbell, under about 33, maybe even a little less.
Let me take a look if I could quickly find it, and then. Yes, he was selected. He shifted over to guard. So his arm length, it was 32 and a half.
No, and a half. Okay.
No, not a half. A quarter.
A quarter? Definitely not a tackle.
Definitely not. So Will Campbell, he's 32 and 5'8". So that's a little longer than what Peter Skoronski is, but
this guy was, needless to say, not high on us drafting Campbell. Although I did watch some vid of him the other day. The guy's a stud. He does need to. I forget. Kyles was saying there was something he needed to work. I think it might have been. I forget if it was footwork or upper body strength, but he needs to work on one or the other. Kyles is a big Membu guy. And I know you and I have talked about that. let's not float a right tackle to a left tackle.
Please no. If it's left to right, I would at least be okay with it. But no. We had this experience before, and I'm not want to go in. We don't want to
do it again.
We as Patriots fans do not want to go on that route again. That's for sure.
Okay.
But with Will Campbell, if we do push him to left guard, and then we drafted another left tackle like at the likes of like Proctor out of Alabama, but I doubt we would get Proctor out of Alabama. He's like the left tackle. He's the left Caden Proctor, the left tackle out of Alabama. Because I know people in the Discord chat, they did talk about if we don't get Campbell, we could also get that guy. But I know that
where was Aiden Proctor mentioned in the Discord chat?
I don't know. Like I don't know exactly. It's been like I think it was like a couple of days ago. Some of the guys in the Patriots global community Discord mentioned something like Caden Proctor out.
Caden Proctor. Yeah, Caden Proctor. Caden Proctor. Wasn't me.
It was. I don't know who exactly, but
no, I don't need to know who it was. I'm just curious because I don't remember reading it.
Yeah, it was. I had vague memories, but it seems like if we do, I know for a fact that we're not gonna. You do not want Campbell, and obviously we want like the best player available.
I took Proctor in a mock draft once, I think, but anyway, that's beside the point.
We'll save that for another time.
Correct.
Let's move on. We gotta move closer because I think we're letting it drag. So let's move on to another. Let's move on to another press conference. This is from quarterbacks coach Ashton Grant. He was the assistant quarterbacks coach for the Cleveland Browns, and this guy he did have connections with Vrabel since Vrabel was before he joined he was hired as the Patriots head coach. He was the consultant for the Cleveland Browns. And what he said when he spoke about the Patriots plans for May when it comes to different quarterback nuances, he, for example, May improved his footwork, which was definitely a huge issue coming out of the draft, and it definitely improved under Alex Van Pelt, our previous offensive coordinator. And according to Grant, the new coaching staff will keep May's footwork the same, so they're not gonna like change it to do what they did. But he said, but this is what Grant says, and I quote: "I've had experience with the same footwork Drake was using last year, and that was the same footwork that we were using in Cleveland while AVP was there. We're probably going to end up keeping it the same and try to build on what May has done in the past." And I love these news. I love it what Grant says, because obviously Drake May's issue was his footwork coming out of the draft. And under AVP, who was the offensive coordinator for the Browns until he got fired, that was the same system that they were implementing. And definitely with Ashton Grant coming into as the quarterbacks coach, it's definitely a huge plus for Drake May, considering the fact that they were both part of the Cleveland Browns offensive coaching staff, which I completely love. And if they continue to develop him the way, Drake May looks a lot better. He looks like the quarterback we all expected, with better footwork.
With better footwork and learning to slide in the pocket, which is another big thing he needs to learn to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was, I like to say that, a lot of those picks weren't his fault, and some of them weren't, but there was it actually the one against the anti-game clincher for us, at least against the Titans? I vaguely remember was his fault.
Or was it against the Colts where
the Colts was when freaking Anthony Richardson ran roughshod against our defense, and then they put through the 2-point conversion, and we just barely missed the field goal.
Yeah, I was talking about there was like a Colts secondary player. He he got a pick off of Drake May by making one of the most ridiculous plays. I don't know if that was exactly, but let's just say that Ashton Grant being the quarterback coach for Drake May and having connections with Vrabel and at least with Alex Van Pelt, that is definitely a huge plus for Drake May, considering that they want the continuation of his development from what AVP did.
His steady footwork and working on his side to side is a must.
Yes, and he led to, due to erratic moments, May's footwork led to inaccurate throws or sprays. Okay, so
what's a spray? A spray?
Let me look that up in football. Spray in football. Footballs. The vanishing. I don't know. I gotta look it up during my spare time, but he did say we're trying to keep the same system and within the same wheelhouse. So the quarterback is going to have a lot to say at the line of scrimmage, and work will get going on how well he does and handles things coming spring. Okay, so that was that. And now let's move on to the next set of the press conferences, which today was Jeremy Springer's press conference, which I was really high on Jeremy Springer coming back, considering that. Go ahead.
I like that presser of his, man. It was solid.
It was really solid, I gotta say. I love Jeremy Springer because of his energy and obviously his special teams unit ranked in the top 3s, top 5s. It was definitely in the top of the charts.
Special teams, even in Belichick's second to last season was good. We've fallen off even in special teams the past couple of seasons. It's been, so yeah, bringing him. Was he with the Pats before?
Jeremy Springer?
Yeah.
No, he was with the Rams.
That's right. He was with the Rams. That's what I thought. So yeah, he worked under Sean McVay, which is obviously West Coast offense, Shanahan guy. But yeah, bringing him in, I know it's special teams, but like I said, it's a unit that's really fallen off the rails for us the past couple of years. So bringing him in is awesome. And I love, talking about, guys, because, that's what we need right now. I want my kicker to be a guy's guy who can, not just talk ball, but, talk about life and stuff with, a wide receiver or Drake May or Hunter Henry or,
100%.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to be discussing. And
correct.
Because he was asked about what he's going to do with the kicker position, since we all know Joey Sly did, however, leave for the Titans, and all that's left is John Parker Romo, who was behind I forgot the name of the other kicker who had an injury, and then this guy took over for him for the Vikings. And yeah, he looked decent. John Parker Romo, who is now with us. He was undrafted.
Let me just see if I can look up that Vikings kicker. Just a sec.
Okay. Actually, I found it. It's Will Riker.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
And throughout, and these are his career NFL stats. So his longest field goal was 55 yards. He made 11 field goals were made, and 12 field goals were attempted. So basically, that's a 91.7% of field goals, which was really impressive for a backup kicker. And definitely, he could be the starting kicker. But we're obviously going to bring in another kicker for our kicker competition.
We got to bring in another kicker. I mean, I've even heard about us bringing Nick Folk back potentially.
Well, Nick Folk turned 40, but
over the hill. But a kicker, Adam Vinatieri, remember him? He played till he was almost he played till he was at least 47.
Speaking of Adam Vinatieri, we will discuss it at the very end when it comes to the Hall of Fame induction of Bill Parcells. But I think somebody in the Patriots Unfiltered said that there's somebody. It was not Paul. It was not Mike, and it was not Evan. There was someone else. there will be a voting selection for like who's going to be inducted to the Patriots Hall of Fame, since Adam Vinatieri was originally going to be the first ballot Hall of Famer during the for the 2024 class, but I think that that's going to be later. But if we get him now to the Patriots Hall of Fame sooner, then he could be a pro football Hall of Famer later. Because I know that there were stories that Adam Vinatieri was going to be in the pro football Hall of Fame.
Oh, he's a lock for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, man.
And that okay, so let's go back to where we want, where we're looking for. Okay, for the kicker position, that this is what he said, which I really love. First and foremost, the character part of it is really important. I don't want just a kicker. I want a guy that's gonna be great in the locker room. 100%, you need a guy that's great for the locker room. You do not want a guy who is gonna be like a cancer in the locker room, and then the coaches are gonna cut him. Obviously, correct. You want a guy that has talent but also has a great personality, and Springer does have a great personality as a coach, and that's what you want for the locker room. And I love that quote coming out of Springer, considering the fact that you obviously want, now at this day and age when it comes to NFL players, they all go on to social media and act like they're this diva. They're like they feel like they're the most important player in the team, and they just value. Go ahead.
And Vrabel's talked about it too. He's brought up that term character. We haven't had a coaching staff who's been that keyed in on character in years. And that's when people say Vrabel is a culture builder. I mean, that's one of the things they're talking about. Is he, I want, one of my key things is I don't think he specifically, it was player character, and then there was something else he mentioned in his introductory press conference. But yeah, fog of war. But yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's a completely different feel to the Patriots staff this year, and it's a really, really nice thing to see.
Speaking of coaching staff, the defensive coaching staff, it looks completely different compared to last season. It looks completely different. So like, no more Brian Belichick, no more Mike Pellegrino, and now he's the cornerbacks coach for the Buffalo Bills. So sad to see, considering how many cornerbacks Mike Pellegrino has developed. But we need to see like how these new coaches take over, since we don't have like the same. We haven't had this different defensive coaching staff in like ages. So let's take a look.
If we were to keep one of the guys on the defensive side of the ball, I would have kept Pellegrino. But hey, yeah, it is what it is.
He started off as the coaching assistant for us, and then elevated to defensive backs coach, which I completely love. Like, I could list off all of the cornerbacks that he worked under, like Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, obviously Christian Gonzalez.
I know.
Yeah, we still haven't heard a word out of Terrell Williams yet, and I'm curious to see what his press conference looks like. Like, I thought that his press conference was scheduled for today at 1:00, but unfortunately, it was Jeremy Springer's press conference that was scheduled today. So, yeah.
We got to talk about that. I love that Springer presser, man.
Yeah. Since I know that you told me in my DMs that you did not get a chance to look at the defensive assistants, but we will react to it together. So we got defensive line coach Clint McMillan. Let me just find out where he was. Okay, so I don't know where he came from, but this is some of the quotes. So like when he was.
Wait, what's his name again?
Clint McMillan, defensive line coach. This is my first time I've heard this name, so.
I know.
Clint McMillan. I think I know. He was with the. I think he was with the. He was the defensive assistant coach or defensive line assistant coach, and he was he was also a pass rush specialist for the Tennessee Titans.
Mike Vrabel has added another one of his former Tennessee Titan assistants to the New England Patriots coaching staff, hiring Clinton McMillan. First joined Vrabel in Tennessee in 2021 as a D assistant through Bill Walsh's coaching fellowship. Or the Bill Walsh coaching fellowship. After primarily working with outside linebackers, his focus shifted to the defensive line in 22, where he worked alongside current Patriots defensive coordinator Terrell Williams.
Well, at least there's like the continuity from there compared to, because I can imagine the Tennessee's defense, they were like at the top at the time. So like
absolutely
Terrell Williams and Clint McMillan, there's definitely going to be that continuity, and especially that we did upgrade a defensive line. But some of the quotes that Clint McMillan mentioned, like on Milton Williams and then Keon White, and I quote, "I think the great thing with Milton is he adds obviously what you see on tape, a level of violence and explosiveness, and has ability to affect the quarterback, which is everyone kind of got to see that, especially in the Super Bowl. When you are that violent and you especially get to Mahomes, you're definitely going to. This is why you got the big bucks. This is why Milton will got the big bucks, especially what he did in the Super Bowl, which I completely love.
I mean, when we got it, I talked about this last week. Our defense is now like infamous for not being able to stop Tua. Hopefully Milton Williams helps immensely with that. Milton Williams and Vrabel. I mean, Vrabel just, was it Jaden saying this? Vrabel just knows how to beat Tua.
And let's hope it works out, because the last time. Go ahead.
Last time against that man, it was not pretty at all.
Yeah, it was 28-27 in Monday primetime game, but. Then he was also asked about Keon White, and obviously we know that Keon White, he's now the third year player, and obviously I did not like what he says in last season, and hopefully he can improve mentally and technically. Like he said, this is what Clint McMillan says on Keon White. And I quote, "Obviously, he's a talented player. I think there's room to grow, just like every player. So excited just to get him in the building and let him do the things that he does. We'll let all these guys play fast, play aggressive, and make sure we're doing everything to help the team and continue to help players." I'm curious what Clint McMillan's going to do with Keon White, considering how Keon White was definitely misused under Covington and Jerry Montgomery, who's now with the. Let me check.
Keon White has been misused since we drafted him.
100%.
And that was, what did we draft him, 23?
Yeah, Covington. Was it Brian Belichick Steve Belichick who misused it, or was it Covington who misused it? Because I know Covington.
We drafted Keon White in 23.
So that means Covington was the defensive line coach. And now Jerry Montgomery, he's the defensive line coach and run game coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, but he was also the defensive line coach for the Patriots last season, and I think they kind of misused him. So let's just hope what Terrell Williams and McMillan come up with for Keon White. So
exactly. So basically, you can assign 65-70% of the woes around Keon White to Covington. He's out the door.
And now let's quickly move on over to safeties coach Scott Booker.
Booker, yes. Why don't I read this one? He says, quote, "You want versatility with the safety position, like being able to play high, playing in the box, but you also want versatility position by position. So a guy who can potentially play safety, but can also play nickel corner, a guy who can play safety, but can also come down and play linebacker on third down. We're looking for those guys, and it starts building the foundation of our whole defense." So he's talking about versatility, and let me tell you, man, after watching at many points last year, our sieve of a defense.
Yeah.
I like what he says about that third down linebacker. A guy who can stop a Josh Allen or a Pat Mahomes on third down. We haven't had that guy since Hightower.
Oh, interesting. That's
Wait,
really interesting.
or am I just dreaming? Tell me if I'm dreaming. Help me out here.
Wait, what do you mean? With safeties or linebacker?
Third down linebacker.
Oh, third down linebacker. Are you talking about? Oh, no, I'm blanking out too. So
Maybe I'm just saying things. Oh, you're gonna. Ugh.
Chad, can you help us if you have something, because we're having massive brain farts since we can't think of anything.
So I said, okay, also come down and play linebacker on third down. So my point was, we need a guy who can stop your Josh Mahomes, your Josh Allens and your Pat Mahomes of the world on third down. And we have not, I shouldn't have specifically mentioned Dante Hightower. We have not had that, but we haven't had that type of third down backer in quite a bit.
Yeah, that's kind of disappointing. Like defense, I think defense took a step back based off player personnel and also coaching. So I think with new coaching staff and definitely new defensive players, I think they're going to revive to what the Patriots defense was, hopefully, because we obviously do not want a repeat of what happened last season or the season before. It was decent, but last season it was a massive step back, like we mentioned last week. So let's just hope that with under these new assistant coaches, that these certain positions they boost up to a different level with these questions. And I hope the safety room gets better, because safety room they've looked disappointing last season. They look disappointing.
We're gonna have to grab at least one safety in the draft.
Because Jabril Peppers, we still don't know him after his legal issues. Kyle Duggar still recovering from that injury. And then we did get Hawkins. We did sign Epps in free agency.
McDaniel's guy, even though he's a safety.
Yep. Oh, we have a quote from Jabril Peppers. On
I'll read it out.
When you watch his tape, the first thing that jumps out is violence, right? He is a violent DB. And in today's age, where you don't see as much violence as you have seen 20 years ago from DBs and from safeties, love that violence from him. Also, like I said, is versatility. He played multiple positions last year in his past. So excited to get him here. Excited to talk to him and teach our defense.
Nice.
My only concern with Jabril Peppers, I agree with what he says, but can he replicate all of that after having these legal issues last season, which prevented him from playing for 6 games?
Waiting game. We shall see.
Because we need to find out in mandatory minicamp or training camp if he can replicate all of that. Because I know in my award show on Kobe's channel, I considered Jabril Peppers to be a surprising player, and rightly so, because Jabril Peppers, after coming back from these legal issues, that he didn't look the same. Obviously his captain patch has been removed. I think he was demoted from being a captain, obviously, because of those legal issues. So let's just hope he's back to what he was in 2023. And you gave him that extension for that reason. And I think that this could be another question for another day, but Andy, do you think that we should trade Duggar since Duggar has been disappointing, or do we have to wait for another season to find out?
Trade Duggar?
Because Duggar disappointed us last season.
He really did, man. I think we ought to play it smart with Kyle Duggar. I want to see how he looks in the preseason.
Yeah, because we do not want to trade him sooner, and obviously we would have to hit a dead cap. I haven't taken a look at the dead cap yet, but it wouldn't look good if we traded him that soon. So let's just play it, and hopefully it doesn't come from personal feelings.
He's 29. I don't know why I thought he was in his early 30s. He's younger than I thought he was too. So yeah, definitely hold on to him. No, Duggar.
Oh, Duggar. Let me take a look.
He's 29.
No way. So
I know that I said the same thing too. I wish sure he was older.
That's just shocking. Like normally
he's just 29 too.
Duggar was one selection behind Xavier McKinney, who's now with the Packers. Interesting. He's getting old. I'm shocked to hear. I'm shocked to hear that. Like we're getting old players from random schools. And that's just because of Belichick's ineptitude of drafting proper pop. So probably, and let me just look up Peppers, because Peppers, he was drafted by the Browns in 2018, if I should say. And he's also 29. Both of our safeties are 29. The only difference is that Jabril Peppers was drafted first, then Kyle Duggar, and they're that old. Interesting.
I thought Duggar was older.
Let me check.
No. I said I looked up Duggar. He's 29. I was like, I thought he was in his early 30s, but he's not. He just turned 29. I thought he was older, but he isn't.
Okay, so Peppers is older, but then again,
Peppers is a little older.
But then again, at least this is gonna be an interesting topic for another day. But yeah, we have to swiftly move on to one more. We have two more conferences to take care of. We got cornersbacks coach Justin Hamilton to take over for Mike Pellegrino, and this guy, this is interesting. He was the assistant defensive backs coach for the Indianapolis Colts, and I don't know where the secondary ranked under this guy, but
are you talking?
Who do they have for the Colts? They had like Blackstone. They had like
Jeremy Black. Not Jeremy. Julian Blackman.
Blackman. That's right.
Yeah.
Let me just take a look at the defensive backs that caught my attention. We have Jalen Jones, and that's it. I only know Julian Blackman and Jalen Jones, and that's it. But what he said about the slot cornerback position, and I quote, "I see it very much like the slot receiver. It comes in all shapes and sizes. I think that it's based on what type of offense you're playing, based off of what you want, based on do you want to be in a nickel defense versus bigger personnel in offense, or is it a pass only? You could have multiple guys do it, but it's not a one-size-fits-all position, and it's a difficult position to play. But once again, if you have guys with instincts, then usually the body type is not as important. The coverage skills are, but the instincts are where the difference lies.
You're not going to be happy with this, Dow. The Colts secondary ranked 4th worst in the league in 2024.
Let me take a look who their defensive. Probably they're gonna have the Jeremy Springer treatment, because the Rams the Rams special teams, when we got Jeremy Springer, they were like dead last. So their defensive backs coach at the time, his name is Ron Miles. I can't pronounce his name, but he's the defensive backs coach for the Jaguars. But this guy, he's the assistant backs coach of the Colts. So basically, he was not the defensive backs coach. But that's so disappointing.
I know.
Or either it's Chris Bullard, their general manager, sucking butt at drafting. That could be another factor.
Possibly.
Because I know their defensive coordinator was Gus Bradley. Interesting. But yeah, I can't believe they were 4th worst, but I hope that with the new environment for Justin Hamilton, he has better weapons than what he had last time. But then again, we need to see.
Exactly.
But we got one more, and then we'll talk about the final topic of the day. And by the way, guys, if you're still here, you can obviously, if you guys are interested in calling, you can do so in the pin comment in the top of the chat, or you can just put in your questions in the chat, and we will answer them. But yeah, we got one. But then we got one more press conference to take care of, and this is from inside linebackers coach Zach Kerr on what the defense will look for from their linebacker. And obviously, their linebacker room it drastically improved compared to what we had last season.
And I read, quote, again, we're kind of continuing a trend here. I think any style that we've been a part of, the unwavering violence is a huge part of that. I don't think about size so much. Yeah, if you're like 6'3", 250 and you're doing that unwavering violence attribute of the position, it could be the same from like a 5'11", 220-pound guy. I'm a firm believer that your actions speak for everything, so being aggressive, being violent, not turning down blocks, having a good toolbox of tools to defeat the offensive player. But it's not just like always finesse. And there is some physicality, there is some violence. I mean, we're huge into guys who don't mind playing violent football.
The common theme with all of the defensive assistant coaches is violence. Can they replicate all of that? And obviously,
that's like 90s, early 2000s defense right there. I mean, what we saw when we had Vrabel as a linebacker, when we had Ty Law as a cornerback.
Yeah. The question is, can we not be like we want our defense to be violent, but not like reckless violence to the point where
exactly.
Because I don't know if we led the league in penalties, but penalties were a huge issue, not just on the offensive line, but also on the defense. So gotta play smart too. Can't just be mindlessly go be violent and then start killing quarterbacks to that point. But then again, you want to be violent, but you want to be smart, but not like reckless.
Like you don't want a linebacker or a DN who's out to purposely hurt the quarterback. And I believe it or not, they do exist. But that's not the kind of guy you want on your football team.
And I think that we have new linebackers, so I think that's with new leadership and definitely a huge improvement of what we had last time.
I mean, Vrabel having been a linebacker, he's not going to put up with a linebacker or a DN who wants to physically injure a quarterback. He's not going to put up with it one bit.
I mean, because if they act like that in mandatory mini camp or training camp, they're definitely going to get cut.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And that concludes all the press conference. And now we are on to the final topic of today, and that is Bill Parcells being inducted to the Patriots Hall of Fame. I didn't see that coming. Like when I heard that, I did not either. I'm like, I think I was driving home from running an errand, and I'm like, Bill Parcells is now a New England Patriots Hall of Famer? Like, I know that he was in the Giants Hall of Fame, and he was already inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but
exactly.
This hard.
I mean, kudos to Kraft for closing that 30-year-old feud. I mean, because he did not exactly leave here under good terms. I mean, he brought us to a Super Bowl in 95 and 96, and then basically behind our backs in the week leading up to the Super Bowl tells the Jets he's going there.
That's just stupid.
So there was that whole thing. There was that whole thing with, oh my gosh, Parcells is going to the Jets. But I'm going to tell you this. I think one of the reasons Kraft, after 30 years, bit the bullet and decided to put him in. I forget what the conditions were. It was like, it wasn't an honorary Hall of Famer. It was something weird. Let me look it up.
Because obviously, I didn't exist during that time, so it's like, it's interesting. Like, what I know that how do I can say it, because I never exist during that time. So Parcells did leave for the Jets, but then obviously Kraft wanted to clean up everything that was left of the Parcells guys, and then he got Pete Carroll.
I was around. I was just very, very young. I was 6. Let me think. Yeah, I was 6 at the time, so a long way off from watching football. I looked it up. He's been inducted as a contributor, and what that means is, and a lot of people are saying this on the radio, without Parcells, there's no Belichick, and obviously without Belichick, there's no Patriots dynasty. So, Kraft was introduced to Belichick by Parcells, and Parcells introduced that, the no nonsense defense to New England. And Kraft probably stepped back, thought about that, and said, "Oh, geez, without this guy, we're probably still, the laughing stock we were in the late '80s." And so decided to make, he was inducted as a contributor to the New England Patriots.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know I did watch the two Bills documentary on Disney Plus, and I heard the behind the scenes of like how it all transpired. Like, obviously we learned of like how Belichick became the head coach for the Patriots after Robert Kraft fired Pete Carroll. So it was so complex to understand, but rewatching it 3 times at least, I get like the good visual of what truly happened behind the scenes. And I personally did not know about this. What else? But yeah, congratulations to Bill Parcells to be inducted to the Patriots Hall of Fame, even though he spent like 4 seasons with the Patriots as a head coach, and obviously he was the linebackers coach for the Patriots in 1980, which I never knew about that. I knew him as like a defense. I knew him as like the head coach for the New York Giants, even though I did my little research on him before my time. So it was really interesting, gotta say.
But that is interesting.
But one more thing before we call it a day, unless we can get if we can get like final call-ins, if anybody is interested and want to call in, you can go in the pin comment in the top of the chat. But one more so basically, now that Bill Parcells is in the Patriots Hall of Fame, do you have any other candidates who could potentially be in the Patriots Hall of Fame this year, or we're just gonna get Bill Parcells?
Well, we were talking about Adam Vinatieri.
Yes. There's so many candidates that could be in the Patriots Hall of Fame this year. And Adam Vinatieri is one of. Also, I realized that Julian Edelman would be also eligible to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But I was like, what? I never knew that. Yes, Julian Edelman will be eligible to be in the Patriots Hall of Fame this year, per ESPN's Mike Reese.
Okay, and Belichick will be eligible in 2026.
2026. Even though he is currently a coach.
This says Edelman is only eligible in 26.
In 26, so not like not 25. So Bill Parcells.
I mean, it's very possible Reese is right.
Interesting. But yeah, but yeah, that's really cool. I never knew Julian Edelman would potentially be in the Patriots Hall of Fame soon, considering the fact that he never racked up any All Pros or second team All Pros. He never got any Pro Bowlers. He did, however, he was a 3-time Super Bowl champion
and a Super Bowl MVP,
but never a Pro Bowl or an All Pro, which was kind of
he got the short end of the stick every year, man.
For some reason.
Edelman was one of the most underappreciated wide receivers ever.
That's just ridiculous. But then again, that's the NFL. They're always biased.
They're biased against the Patriots. Like whenever you hear, it's like, let me look at okay.
Is it because of Spygate and that Deflategate?
A bunch of freaking nonsense.
Yeah, it's a bunch of nonsense. Like I was never a huge fan of the Deflategate. Obviously, Spygate I did not know much, but Deflategate I really hated it. I thought Deflategate was stupid.
Oh, Deflategate was entirely stupid. Okay, here we are. Here we are. No, never mind.
Oh, also your camera's frozen, just to let you know. So.
Oh, thank you, man.
But then again,
also, yeah, I'm trying to look those numbers. That's why I want to get onto my PC. I can't find those numbers right now, but it was like, everybody brings up how many more Hall of Famers those other dynastic teams have, and it's beyond ridiculous.
Like, you got like other players that could have been in the Patriots Hall of Fame, eligible for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but for some reason, like Robert Kraft, has not been in the Pro Football Hall of Fame yet, or some of the other players who were part of the Patriots dynasty. They're underappreciating the players from the Patriots dynasty. That doesn't make any sense.
I know. Tell me about it, man.
Like Tyler.
Edelman only had 3,000-yard seasons.
Interesting. I know
another year he hit 972. Another year he hit 850.
Let me take a. Obviously, so basically, he did rack up. He had impressive seasons, but he should have been at least like in the second. He should at least be a Pro Bowler at some point. For some reason,
he 100% should have been a Pro Bowler at least once.
He looks, even though he was underappreciated in regular season, he looks like a beast in the playoffs.
He's one of the best playoff wide receivers ever,
especially like towards the second half of the Patriots dynasty, like 2014 to 2018.
Mm-hmm.
They're not concluding
that catch. I mean, without Edelman, you don't win 30. You don't win 49. You don't win 51.
Yeah, and obviously they didn't win 50. They didn't get a chance to go to 50. Obviously 52, he was out. That's why Brandon Cooks took over, and then he went down with that injury.
He was MVP of 53.
Yes, but obviously people were saying that, because of legal issues, this and that, and he shouldn't be the MVP. I think that's just stupid.
And he was. Yeah, he was being heckled about it too. That was just dumb. But anyway, we're digressing on one of our favorite Patriots players of all time, Mr. Julian Edelman. Congratulations to Bill Parcells on being inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame.
And I'm excited for that ceremony. But it seems like that's the end of this live stream. And unfortunately, we didn't get some of the calls that we expected, but that's okay. We will save that for our next time.
There's always next time, Pats Nation. And until then, I am your guy, Mass Football, a.k.a. a DadBod35.
And this is your host, DTN. And once again, before you leave this stream, make sure you subscribe, like this stream, turn on these notifications for more updates. And you might want to share this to your friends because if you subscribe to this channel, this is you are part of the Patriots Talk community, and it's free. Subscription to this channel is free.
You don't have to pay 1 cent, guys. Not 1 cent. Think about it.
Think about it, guys. And we will see you next time for another edition of Patriots Talk.
Yeah. So I second DTN. And again, you want more Patriots? Doesn't cost a cent, Pats Nation. Peace.
Go
We'll
Pats.
see you next time. Go Pats.